This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's such a delight to be here helping you with playing the guitar. It's a Theory Thursday. I love music theory. I am thrilled to bring this course to you. In this lesson, we're looking at the Mixolydian Mode, what it is and how we play it on the guitar. So, up here on the board, I've got Mixolydian written there. The Mixolydian Mode is the fifth mode of the major scale. It has root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a flatted seventh. So by comparison to the major scale, it's got a flatted seventh instead of a natural seven, and that's the unique combination of pitches that creates the Mixolydian Mode. And of course, I've got up here all the ways that we can play it. I've linked this lesson with the last few lessons where we've been doing the modes of the major scale. So these 5 positional forms we've learned about before, only we're changing where the root is located. So when we talked about the Ionian mode, I noted that we can play any of the modes of the major scale, and the Ionian mode, Ionian being the modal name for the major scale, that we can play any of the modes of the major scale using those same 5 forms that I've got up here on the board. We just changed the root. And so I've done that, and I've left these in the same order as they have been in the other lessons, so you can sort of see that correlation with the same numbers for those. But before we look at the 5 positional forms, let's take a look at the single octave forms. So just like we've been doing with the modes, there is a single octave form that we can then combine together to create these positional forms that fill out the entire neck. Sometimes starting with the single octave form, though, is the best way to sort of get these under our fingers. So go ahead and take a look. We've got 2 different options. If we look at option A first, and I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate this right in the middle of the neck. So we've got a B flat there. I'm going to go ahead and play this one on B flat. So that square around the dot there that represents the note is the root, so B flat. And I just play through that single octave scale. It can be a great idea to add the arpeggio in as well. The arpeggio takes the chord tones every other note, so root 3, 5, and flat 7. So you can skip over every other one if you wanted to add that in there as well. Just like that. So I can play through that single octave form. And then if I want to, I can play the arpeggiated notes as well. Great technical exercise. If you're working on improvisation, it's great to get the chord tones under our ear. These other tones will create tension that then resolve to those, so it can be great to work on the arpeggio as well. Now, what we can do when we have this single octave form is we can actually transfer it to other string sets. We've done this with other modes as well. But if I take that single octave, I can move it up. If I kept it in the same key, I would need to go up to B flat, that's at the 13th fret of the 5th string, and I could take that entire thing and move it higher. And I've got that scale there, just like that. And of course, if I want to add in the arpeggio, I can. I can take it to the next set of strings. I just roll it 1 string higher, and I've got a B flat at the 8th fret of the 4th string, and I can play that same scale there. And if I want the arpeggio, I've got it. Now, as we've been seeing, as we've been working through these modes, every time we get to the 2nd string, that string, we got to move everything 1 fret higher. And that's just because of the tuning difference between the G and B strings versus all the other strings. It's the equivalent of 1 fret difference, 1 less fret. So we have to compensate for that. So when I play that scale, I got to shift up for that particular string set or set of strings. And then I can move it 1 higher. I've got a B flat at the 3rd fret of that 3rd string, and I can play it there as well. Now, once we shift up on that 2nd string, we stay back. We stay in the same sort of correlation of how this works once we get up there. So that's why I went 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and then I stayed shifted up to play what would be that higher line there, that higher string. So we can play that just like that. Now, we could also do just little pieces of it. I could continue higher. I have a B flat on the 2nd string. I could play just a piece of it, or on that high string, but I don't have a whole octave. And I could do pieces of it coming lower as well. So if I could play it backwards, just like that, I have a B flat on that 5th string at the 13th fret, and I could play just a piece of it. And then at the 6th fret with my pinky, I could play just a piece of it. So that's the single octave form A. Alternatively, we have an alternate form. And so over here, this one's going to start with a pinky. And if I'm going to put that pinky on B flat instead of my middle finger there, I can play form B. So, and of course I can add the arpeggio in as well if I'd like, just like that. Now with this one, I can transfer it to higher strings the same way. So I've got the B flat there on that 6th string, I've got the B flat on the 5th string at the 13th fret, I can play it there. Or I've got the B flat at the 8th fret on the 4th string, and I can play it there. Now with that one, I have to shift up when I get to that 2nd string. And I like to just reposition my hand to play the arpeggio off of that. I shifted up for that B flat note as I did the one that came off the 5th string as well, so I didn't mention it, but I had done that. I didn't shift my hand, I just played that one note higher. So those are the 3 string sets where we get the complete octave, but of course in the same way that I demonstrated with this, you could have little pieces up there. So I've got a B flat at the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and I could play just part of this scale, everything but the root on top, and I've got a little piece of the arpeggio even right there off the 3rd string, or I've got a piece of it off that 2nd string, or I have one note on the top string. So, and I could back it up and come off of it as well. So if I put my index finger on the B flat here, we could come back down with just a piece of it, or I've got the B flat at the 1st fret, I've got a B flat there at the 6th fret, so on the 6th string. So that's how those work, and then we connect those together and we create these positional forms, which is pretty awesome. That fills out the entire fretboard. For me, I like to work the single octaves and the positional forms. I find it really useful. These actually connect together all over the fretboard. If you're sort of new to these lessons, in the very first Theory Thursday lessons that came out, so it's going to be very early on in the playlist, I did an extensive overview of how to play and how to unlock the fretboard with the major scale and how you can connect the different forms together. You may want to check that out because it takes a much deeper dive, but that's the general gist of it. We got 2 forms there, and now we can connect them. So let's go ahead and take a look at connecting them. I mentioned that these forms are written in the same order with the same numbers that we used when we started with scale 1 or step 1, which is the Ionian mode or the major scale. And I've left them there so that correlation is there for you if you're proceeding through all of these lessons. But let's just go ahead and take a look here at number 2, because that puts this form on bottom. So if you take a look at number 2, and what I have here is these ones are drawn out with how these particular scales relate to each other, sitting next to each other along the fretboard, and then over here I have it in how they sort of rotate strings. But it's written nice and big here. Let's just take a look for a second at this one, and I can do it in B flat since that's what we've been doing. So if I start with scale form 1 and I play that one, I'm going to end up with my pinky. When I get to my pinky, what I'm going to do is switch to scale form 2. So I started with scale form 1, or A I should say, scale form A, and now I'm going to go to scale form B. Now on top I have just a piece of scale form 1 that I can play in that particular position. So you'll see that written there. And then I just come down. I don't have any notes below the root in this particular position, so that fills out the entire position just like that. And I could play the arpeggio as well if I wanted to. So that's how this works. We start with one form and we rotate back and forth. We may end up with full 2 octaves like we have here. Sometimes we may only have one complete octave and then just pieces on the outsides of it, or we may have a little bit over 2 octaves. So The way this works is we can rotate this through all the string sets just like we did with these. And I want to show us that first before we look at how they're actually stacked up next to each other. So that's scale form 2. So over here we have scale form 2. So we played that one just like that. We played it right there in B flat. So again, scale form 2. Just like that, and I'm adding that arpeggio in. You can learn it without the arpeggio or with the arpeggio, either way. If we take everything and we move it one string higher, we end up with scale form 3. So now my root is on the 5th string. I've moved everything one string higher, and we've got form 3 here. And so my B flat is at the 13th fret of the 5th string, and I can play this form just like that. And I can add the arpeggio in. Now if I take everything one string higher, we end up with form 4 here, and I'm going to have a B flat. I'm going to go to the B flat that is on the 4th string, which is at the 8th fret, and I can play this form, meaning I've moved everything 1 fret higher. And I can add in that arpeggio just like that. So we got B flat there. Now we can take everything 1 fret higher, and we end up with that root note on the 3rd string. We could also start with a low root note with our pinky on the 6th string, so meaning we start with scale form 2 and then do scale form 1. So if I do that, I got my pinky there on the 6th fret of that 6th string. I've got just like that, and I can throw that arpeggio in if I want. Just like that. So we got that form, and then if we move everything 1 fret higher, I put my pinky up on that 13th fret of the 5th string, and I've got scale form 2 and then a piece of scale form 1 on top and bottom. So just like that, and then we're back to scale form 2. So now looking up at scale form 1, the way these set next to each other along the fretboard, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, and then it's going to start again with form 1. Now I've been demonstrating these in the modes where we started off with G Ionian, the G major scale. And we've looked at the different modes in relation to that all along the fretboard. It's a great key to work in. So we got 1 sharp, F sharp, and that's the only sharp that we had there. So for Mixolydian, that would put us playing a D Mixolydian scale, starting with our pinky on the 5th fret. And I'll show you how these stack up next to each other. So if we start right there with that one, I got my pinky on the 5th fret of the 5th string, and I can play scale form 1. And I can add in the arpeggio if I want to. Then what we see here is how these overlap. Where my pinky was, now my middle finger comes up with scale form 3, and I can play it from there. And I can play that arpeggio if we want to. Now where my pinky landed here, my index finger will line up with. So we've got the D at the 7th fret on the 3rd string, and I can start there, or my pinky down on the 10th fret of the 6th string, and I can play it starting there, which I'll do that. And I can play that arpeggio just like that. Then where our pinky was, now our middle finger goes to play scale form 2. And my middle finger then being at the 10th fret on that 6th string. So, scale form 2, then where our pinky was, we now have, at the 12th fret, our middle finger is going to go to play scale form 4 up there on top. So, and I can play the arpeggio. That. Just like that. And then we come around There where we ended off with our pinky all the way up on that 15th fret, we would now put our middle finger to play scale form 1 again, so then our pinky could come down to the 17th fret to catch that D, and we could play scale form 1 there. Like that, and of course then we can continue on at the 17th fret with our middle finger, and depending on how many frets you are, you just keep going and it fills out the entire fretboard. So that's how the Mixolydian mode works on the guitar. The very best way to play these scales is what I'm giving you here, this sort of formula. I think it's the very best way to approach playing these scales on the guitar. So I hope that helps. Next Thursday we'll be looking at the Aeolian mode, which is the 6th mode of the major scale. So we're just going to keep working through these modes that get used for improvisation and to play melodies and so on. So great things to learn. Of course, we got other lessons coming out every week as well. On Saturdays, we have lessons for improvisation, and you got the jazz lessons that are coming out. We've got over 1,000 lessons on the channel, lots of videos, so lots of great ways to get help. Of course, there's the method books. The new theory and technique book will be out soon, which talks about this sort of stuff and much, much more. So great ways to get help with playing the guitar. Keep having fun, take care, and we'll see you again.
If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.